Hello viewers, this is Ranjana ma'am and you are watching Yes, It's Mine as well as your channel. And yes, today is for my CBSE students. They've been asking me for a long time to put up some videos of the CBSE syllabus class 11, some of the stories which they have. So yes, this is the story which I'm going to explain here is from your Snapshots. The Summer of the Beautiful White Horse. I love teaching this story. So those of you who have read it, I'm sure you must have understood it well. If you haven't understood it, then here the story is well explained in a lucid manner to you by your very own Ranjana ma'am. And by the way, you all may be new, some of you CBSE students might be new. If you have not subscribed to my channel up till now, please do, and don't forget to press the like button after you've finished viewing the video, because I know you'll surely like it. So what are we waiting for? Yes, let's start. The Summer of the Beautiful Horse, what is it about? It is about two young boys. They are Armenian boys, quite poor, rather very poor. And yet the two are quite sweet natured. I really like teaching this story, especially the narrator. He is a very young boy. So most probably he is thinking, now he's a grown-up boy and he's thinking of the past, when he was a boy of 9. So what happened one day? The summer of the beautiful white horse. One day back there in the good old days when I was 9. So when I was 9 gives you the idea that when he's writing the story, or rather when he's narrating it, I wouldn't say the narrator and the author are same. So when he narrates the story, he's a grown-up person, but he remembers something what had happened when he was 9 years old. So what had really happened? And the world was full of every imaginable kind of magnificence, and life was still a delightful and mysterious dream. Yes, the more you grow up, life becomes tough. It doesn't remain a dream anymore, it becomes a reality. So what had happened during those times when he was 9 and life still seemed to be a dream? He had a cousin called Murad. He was a bit crazy. So what did Murad do? My cousin Murad, who was considered crazy by everybody who knew him except me, came to my house at 4 in the morning and woke me up, tapping on the window of my room. So he comes and taps on the window of the room and says, Murad, Aram, get up, something like this. Aram, he said. So name of the narrator is Aram and Murad is his cousin, two Armenian boys. I jumped out of bed and looked out of the window. I couldn't believe what I saw, so he must have seen something very strange. It wasn't morning yet, but it was summer, and with daybreak not many minutes around the corner of the world, it was light enough for me to know I wasn't dreaming. So it was dawn, probably the time which we call dawn. Not yet morning, but a little bit of light. My cousin Murad was sitting on a beautiful white horse. I struck my head out of the window and rubbed my eyes. Why did he rub his eyes? He couldn't believe what he saw. My cousin Murad, and riding on a beautiful white horse. Yes, he said in Armenian, it's a horse. You're not dreaming. Make it quick if you want to ride. Come quick if you want to ride. So he's sitting on a horse and he's inviting his cousin Aram for a ride. I knew my cousin Murad enjoyed being alive more than anybody else who had ever fallen into the world by mistake. Yeah, so he seemed to be a very active, energetic fellow. But this was more than I could even believe. Yeah, riding a white horse. Why couldn't he believe? In the first place, my earliest memories had been memories of horses, and my first longings had been to ride. This was the wonderful part. He wanted to ride, he loved horses. Second place, we were poor. So this is the reality, and they couldn't afford riding a horse. They couldn't afford to have a horse of their own. This was the part that wouldn't permit me to believe what I saw. I saw Murad riding a horse, but why couldn't I believe? Because we were poor and we couldn't afford to have a horse, and this part was not permitting me to believe what I saw. We were poor, we had no money. Our whole tribe was poverty stricken. That means very poor. Every branch of the Garoglanian family was living in the most amazing and comical poverty in the world. Amazing and comical poverty. I don't know whether poverty can be comical. Nobody could, what is the comic part? Nobody could understand where we got money enough to keep us with food in our bellies. So from where did the money come to help us to survive? We did not know. So that was something funny. Not even the old men of the family. Most important of all, though we were famous for our honesty. Yeah, we were famous for honesty. So from where did the food come and get into our bellies? We were famous for our honesty, so we wouldn't go and steal. We had been famous for our honesty for something like 11 centuries. Even when we had been the wealthiest family in what we like to think was the world. So there was a time when they weren't so poor, they were quite rich, they were the wealthiest families, and since then, so then they were the wealthiest, and since then they have been noted for their honesty, and now that their condition has deteriorated and they are one of the poorest families ever, and yet they have retained that honesty. We were proud first, honest next, and after that we believed in right and wrong. So they were moral people. None of us would take advantage of anybody in the world, let alone steal. Stealing is out of question. We wouldn't take advantage of someone else. Consequently, so as a result, even though I could see the horse, so magnificent, even though I could smell it, so lovely, even though I could hear it breathing, so exciting, so he could see, he could smell, he could hear, and yet he couldn't accept the fact that what he was seeing was not a dream but a reality. I couldn't believe the horse had anything to do with my cousin Murad or me or any other member of our family asleep or awake. Because I knew my cousin Murad couldn't have bought the horse. He did not have that much money to buy a horse. And if he couldn't have bought it, he must have stolen it. That is the only other alternative left. If he hasn't bought it, he has stolen it. And I refuse to believe he had stolen it. Why? Because we were the Garoglanian family noted for our honesty, and none of us would take advantage of others. Forget the question of stealing. I stared first at my cousin and then at the horse. There was a pious stillness and humor in each of them, cousin as well as the horse. Both had a pious stillness and humor, which on the one hand delighted me and on the other hand frightened me. I was delighted. Why? Because I loved horses and he's inviting me for a ride. So this delighted me. But I was afraid, has my cousin Murad stolen the horse? Murad, I said, where did you steal this horse? Leap out of the window, he said, if you want to ride. So if you want to have a ride, so he didn't answer the question. Rather, he said, if you want to have a ride, jump out of the window and join me. It was true then. He had stolen the horse. Oh, so it is a fact. He had stolen the horse. That is why he doesn't answer my question. There was no question about it. He had come to invite me to ride or not as I chose. So that was up to me to choose whether I would go and have a ride on the horse or I wouldn't. Well, it seemed to me stealing a horse for a ride was not the same thing as stealing something else such as money. Yeah, because he loved horses, na? We try to manipulate things to our own advantage. So he's doing the same. So he says stealing a horse for the sake of riding isn't real stealing. Like money. If he steal money, that is different. But stealing a horse only to enjoy a ride. For all I knew, maybe it wasn't stealing at all. If you were crazy about horses the way my cousin Murad and I were, it wasn't stealing. It wouldn't become stealing until we offered to sell the horse. Yeah, we are not going to sell the horse. We have taken it for a ride. If we sell it, that is stealing. And we are not going to sell it. Let me put on some clothes, I said. All right, he said, but hurry. Why? Because soon people will be getting up. And he did not want that the others should see them riding the horse. I leaped into my clothes. I jumped down to the yard from the window and leaped up onto the horse behind my cousin Murad. That year, we lived at the edge of town on Walnut Avenue. Behind our house was the country, vineyards, orchards, irrigation ditches, and country roads. In less than 3 minutes, we were on Olive Avenue, and then the horse began to trot, began to run fast, taking longer leaps. The air was new and lovely to breathe. The feel of the horse running was wonderful. My cousin Murad, who was considered one of the craziest members of our family, began to sing. Oh, he's become so happy. He's in such a state of pleasure, he starts singing. And the narrator says this singing wasn't really singing what we think of it. He was roaring. I mean, he began to roar. So don't try to think of anything musical in his song. Every family has a crazy streak in it somewhere, and my cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of the crazy streak in our family. So yes, every family, they have a member who is a crazy one. So in our generation, Murad was a crazy one, and in the previous generation, there was someone else. But it was not his father. His biological father, Murad's biological father, was not crazy like him. Before him was our uncle Kushrov. So this is the crazy member in the family in the previous generation, Uncle Kushrov, but he is not Murad's father. An enormous man with a powerful head of black hair and the largest moustache in San Joaquin Valley. A man so furious in temper, so irritable, so impatient that he stopped anyone from talking by roaring. So this man was crazy and he had a very bad temper. And if anyone spoke and he wanted to silence that person, he would shout so loudly. And what would he say in order to make that person shut up? So he would say, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." So he would shout out to stop that person from speaking by saying, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." This was his favorite line whenever he did not like anyone speaking and he wanted that fellow to shut up. That was all, no matter what anybody happened to be talking about. So whatever you are talking about, if he got irritated, he would say the same thing. Once it was his own son. See what a funny incident crops up. Once it was his own son, Arak, running 8 blocks to the barber shop, from his home to the barber shop where Uncle Kushrov was getting his moustache trimmed or a haircut. So his son Arak comes 8 blocks running. Why? To inform his father of some emergency. What is it? Where his father was having his moustache trimmed, to tell him their house was on fire. Father, house is on fire. And how does he respond to it? Uncle Kushrov. This man Kushrov sat up in the chair and roared, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." Oh my God, can you believe a man replying in this manner when he is being told your house is on fire? The first thing other people would do would be to leave the chair, leave the barber shop and run to the house to see the fire put out. And what is he doing? He is saying, "Pay no attention to it." So that shows the crazy streak in it. Any sensible man wouldn't have done this. The barber said, "But the boy says your house is on fire." So Kushrov wrote, "Enough. It is no harm, I say." So yeah, it's natural that he has been called the crazy streak in the family if he could reply in such a way. My cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of this man. He is the natural descendant of this man. He is the crazy streak in the next generation. Although Murad's father was Jorab, this is the biological father, who was practical and nothing else. So Jorab was practical, but his son Murad was the crazy streak in the family. That's how it was in our tribe. A man could be the father of his son's flesh, but that did not mean he was also the father of his spirit. Yeah, you might be the father, the same blood might be running in his veins, but not the same spirit. The distribution of the various kinds of spirits of our tribe had been from the beginning capricious and vagrant, whimsical. We rode and my cousin Murad sang. For all anybody knew, we were still in the old country, where, at least according to some of our neighbors, we belonged. So according to some of our neighbors, we really belonged to this place, but at this moment, they were staying in Walnut Avenue. We let the horse run as long as it felt like running. At last, my cousin Murad said, "Get down, I want to ride alone." So he's given a nice ride to his cousin Aram, because Aram loved and he wanted to ride a horse. Now he wants to ride alone. "Will you let me ride alone?" I asked. "It's up to the horse," my cousin said. "Get down." "The horse will let me ride," I said. "We shall see," he said. "Don't forget that I have a way with a horse." This is Murad's favorite line. Like Uncle Kushrov's "pay no attention," Murad's favorite line is, "I have a way with," it can be a horse, it can be a dog, it can be something else. He has a way with everything. "Well," I said, "anyway, you have with a horse, I have also. So if you have a way with a horse, even I have." So he is determined to have a ride like Murad, all alone. "For the sake of your safety," he said, "let us hope so. Now get down." "All right," I said, "but remember, you've got to let me try to ride alone." Imagine their guts. He wants to ride on a horse alone, though he has no practice. He has not had any other, he has never ridden a horse in this way, all to himself. And yet, just see these people, these young boys, they are so courageous. Murad is also very young. He is maybe barely 13, and he considers, "Oh, I'm a big grown-up boy." I got down and my cousin Murad kicked his heels into the horse, that is to make the horse start running, and shouted, "Wazire, run." So Wazire is the name of the horse. The horse stood on its hind legs, snorted, and burst into a fury of speed. That was the loveliest thing I'd ever seen. So just see the picture. You have the picture here. My cousin Murad raced the horse across a field of dry grass to an irrigation ditch, crossed the ditch on the horse, and 5 minutes later returned dripping wet. Why? Because he had crossed this ditch, irrigation ditch. That is why he is completely wet. The sun was coming up. "Now it's my turn to ride," I said. So yes, he wouldn't let Murad go without allowing him to ride once at least. My cousin Murad got off the horse. "Ride," he said. I leaped to the back of the horse and for a moment knew the most awful fear imaginable. It is very natural. And yet he has dared to ride. The horse did not move. "Kick into his muscles," my cousin Murad said. "What are you waiting for? We've got to take him back before everybody in the world is up and about." Yeah, they have to hurry up. Before everybody wakes up, he has to keep the horse back from where he had brought it. He had kept it somewhere, and now he has to keep it back there before everybody wakes up and sees them with the horse. I kicked into the muscles of the horse. Once again, it reared and snorted. Then it began to run. I didn't know what to do because, yes, he doesn't know how to control a horse like Murad. Instead of running across the field to the irrigation ditch, the horse ran down the road to the vineyard of Dikran Halabian, where it began to leap over the vines. The horse leaped over 7 vines before I fell. Till 7 vines he had kept himself at least on the back of the horse. But finally he could not manage anymore and he fell. And then it continued running and the horse continues running after dropping this fellow to the ground. My cousin Murad came running down the road. Why? Because he's alarmed. Somehow he has to catch the horse. The horse has run away. I'm not worried about you. So he didn't come here because he's worried about the fall of his cousin. He's more bothered about the horse. We've got to get that horse. You go this way and I'll go this way. So you go this way, I'll go this way, and somehow we have to catch it. If you come up upon him, be kindly, I'll be near. I continued down the road and my cousin Murad went across the field towards the irrigation ditch. It took him half an hour to find the horse and bring him back. So he's an expert, though it takes him half an hour, but finally he manages to bring the horse back. All right, he said, jump on, the whole world is awake now. What will we do? I said, well, he said, we'd either take him back or hide him until tomorrow morning. But he knows what to do, but he's not telling the truth. He's telling either we'll take him back to his owner or we'll hide him till tomorrow morning because the whole world's up. He didn't sound worried and I knew he would hide him and not take him back to the owner. Not for a while, at any rate. So Aram knows his cousin very well. Where will we hide him? I said, I know a place. How long ago did you steal this horse? It suddenly dawned on him and I realized that he had been taking these early morning rides for some time. So today is not the first day. And had come for me this morning only because he knew how much I longed to ride. That is why. So this is not the first day. He has been doing it for quite some days. Who said anything about stealing a horse? Oh, so who told you that I have stolen the horse? Anyhow, I said, how long ago did you begin riding every morning? Okay, so he changes his lines a bit and says, okay, no stealing. But since when did you start riding on this horse? Not until this morning, he said. Are you telling the truth? Of course not. Yeah, of course I'm not telling the truth. But if we are found out, that's what you are to say. You will say that. I don't want both of us to be liars. Why? Because if Aram says not until this morning, so Aram is telling the truth. If Murad says that, he is telling a lie. But Aram is telling the truth. So at least one will be the person who is telling the truth. Both won't be liars. All you know is that we started riding this morning and this is a fact. All right, I said. We walked the horse quietly to the barn of a deserted vineyard which at one time had been the pride of a farmer named Fedvazian. So this vineyard is now an abandoned one. But there was a time it had an owner by the name of Fedvazian. There were some oats and dry alfalfa in the barn. So these are the only things there. No grapes, nothing. We began walking home. It wasn't easy, he said, to get the horse to behave so nicely. At first it wanted to run wild. But as I've told you, I have a way with a horse. I can get it to want to do anything I want it to do. Horses understand me. So yes, he boasts. Horses understand me. I have a way with horses. He'll have way with birds, with dogs. You'll see as the story proceeds. How do you do it? I said. I have an understanding with a horse. Yeah, a bit of understanding. Friendship. Yes, but what sort of understanding? A simple and honest one, he said. Well, I said, I wish I knew how to reach an understanding like that with a horse. So even Aram wishes that if only he could have an understanding like his cousin Murad had with a horse. You're still a small boy. When you get to be 13, you'll know how to do it. That means Murad is 13. And he's looking down on his brother, oh, you are just a kid. When you are 13, you'll know. I went home and ate a hearty breakfast. Why? Yes, he had quite some exercise with the horse and running and trying to find it out. So hearty breakfast, and he's happy also. That afternoon, my uncle Kushrov, that crazy person, came to our house for coffee and cigarettes. He sat in the parlor sipping and smoking and remembering the old country to which they really belonged. But now they have shifted their location. They are staying in a different place, that is the Walnut Avenue. Then another visitor arrived, a farmer named John Byro. So John Byro is not an Armenian, he is an Assyrian from Assyria, who out of loneliness had learned to speak Armenian. Yeah, he was the only Assyrian there, so he couldn't find anyone to talk in Assyrian language. So he learnt Armenian. Why? Because all the people here were Armenians. So in order to drive away his loneliness, he needed someone to talk to, and that is why he learned this language. My mother brought the lonely visitor coffee and tobacco, and he rolled a cigarette and sipped and smoked, and then at last, sighing sadly, he said, "My white horse, which was stolen last month, is still gone. I cannot understand it." So now you know what is happening. His white horse stolen last month and it is still missing. And he cannot understand why, because the place where he lives, these are all Armenian people of the Geroglenian family and they cannot steal. So where has my horse gone? Now Aram understands that the horse Murad was riding, and he also had a ride. This was John Byro's horse. And this had been missing since a month. That means it is since 1 month back that Murad had taken it and is riding all these days and has told him only today. My uncle Kushrov became irritated and shouted, "It's no harm. What is the loss of a horse? Haven't we all lost the homeland? What is this crying over a horse? You are crying over a horse and we have lost our homeland." "That may be all right for you, a city dweller, to say," John Byro said. "But what of my surrey? It's a horse-pulled carriage." What good is a surrey without a horse? I have the carriage, but I don't have the horse, so it has become useless. And he has to undertake a long journey to come here. "Pay no attention to it," my uncle Kushrov roared. "I walked 10 miles to get here." That means his home is 10 miles away from this place. "You have legs," my uncle shouted. "My left leg pains me," the farmer said. "Pay no attention to it." So don't pay attention to the pain in your leg, my uncle Kushrov roared. "The horse cost me $60, the farmer said. "I spit on money," my uncle Kushrov said. So he seems to be in a very irritable temper. He got up and stalked out of the house, slamming the screen door. Who got up? Uncle Kushrov, and left angrily. My mother explained. He has a gentle heart," she said. "It is simply he's homesick and such a large man. So they have had to leave their old place to which they belonged, and they are now here in this place. So he feels homesick." He was sitting, the farmer went away, and I ran over to my cousin Murad's house. He was sitting under a peach tree trying to repair the hurt wing of a young robin which could not fly. So the robin had hurt itself or its wings, and he was trying to repair the wing. He was talking to the bird. "What is it?" he said. "The farmer, John Byro," I said. "He visited our house. He wants his horse." "You've had it a month. I want you to promise not to take it back until I learn to ride." So we were under the impression that he has come here to inform Murad and tell him to return the horse. Rather, he is telling, "No, please don't return it. You've already had it for a month, and don't return it till I have learned to ride." "It could take you a year to learn to ride," my cousin Murad said. "We could keep the horse a year." My cousin Murad leaped to his feet. He jumps to his feet. "What?" he roared. "Are you inviting a member of the Geroglenian family to steal? The horse must go back to its true owner." "When?" I said. "In 6 months at the latest." So not a year, 6 months. He threw the bird into the air. The bird tried hard, almost fell twice, but at last flew away high and straight. Early every morning for 2 weeks. So since John Byro had come to their house, 2 weeks pass and the horse is not returned. And Murad and Aram, they go riding every morning. We took the horse out of the barn of the deserted vineyard where we were hiding it and rode it. And every morning the horse, when it was my turn to ride alone, leaped over grapevines and small trees and threw me and ran away. So Aram has not made any progress. Every day the same thing happens. Nevertheless, I hoped in time to ride the way my cousin Murad rode. But see what happens. One morning on the way to Fedvazian's deserted vineyard, while they are going to keep the horse in the vineyard, we ran into farmer John Byro, who was on his way to town. So Aram is scared. My God, John Byro will see us with the horse. So what to do? But Murad, he knows how to handle a situation. So he says, let me do the talking. My cousin Murad said, I have a way with farmers. So he has a way with birds, he has a way with horses, he has a way with farmers. Good morning, John Byro, my cousin Murad. So he only goes and talks. So attacking is the best way of defense. The farmer studied the horse eagerly. So farmer must be feeling, why this looks like my horse? Good morning, son of my friends, he said. That means the parents of these two are his friends. So son of my friends, he said. What is the name of your horse? My heart, my cousin Murad said in Armenian. But he knows that the name of the horse is Vazire, but he is not saying that. Why? That would mean it is John Byro's horse. A lovely name, John Byro said, for a lovely horse. I could swear it is the horse that was stolen from me many weeks ago. May I look into his mouth? So he is confident that this is his horse. His mind tells him this is his horse, but his heart is telling him, no, these people cannot be thieves. So it must be the twin. Of course, Murad said. The farmer looked into the mouth of the horse. Yeah, so looking at the teeth of the horse, the owners, they can identify whether the horse is theirs or not. Tooth for tooth, yeah, tooth for tooth, it is exactly my horse. I would swear it is my horse if I didn't know your parents. Yeah, he would swear this is his horse, but his parents, Murad's parents, is coming in the way of his claiming the horse to be his. Why? Because he knows the parents well and they are noted for their honesty. They cannot be thieves. The fame of your family for honesty is well known to me. Yet the horse is the twin of my horse, exact replica of my horse. A suspicious man would believe his eyes instead of his heart. I don't believe my eyes. What we see might not be the truth. I believe my heart. And my heart tells it that your family is known, reputed for its honesty, so this cannot be my horse. Because that would mean you all have stolen my horse and I cannot believe it. Good day, my young friend. So he says good day and he leaves. So now what does Murad feel? No, I think I should return him his horse. Good day, John Byro, my cousin Murad said. He is a smart fellow. Just see, he is not at all affected. Early the following morning, we took the horse to John Byro's vineyard and put it in the barn. Why? Because the way he trusts his heart and not his eyes. And that is why Murad feels I should return the horse. Enough. The dogs followed us around without making a sound. The dogs, I whispered to my cousin Murad. I thought they would bark. They would at somebody else, he said. I have a way with dogs. So if someone else entered the barn, they would have barked. But I have a way with dogs, so they are not going to bark at me. My cousin Murad put his arms around the horse. Yeah, this is a farewell, a goodbye. The horse had been with him for more than 1.5 months. Pressed his nose into the horse's nose, patted it and then went away. This shows the bond that had been created between the two. That afternoon, John Byro came to our house in his surrey. Yeah, he can come today. Why? Because his horse has been returned to him. He doesn't have to walk 10 miles to come to the house. And showed my mother the horse that had been stolen and returned. He tells Aram's mother, see, my horse had been stolen and now it has been returned. And the change for something good. I do not know what to think, he said. The horse is stronger than ever. Better tempered, stronger than ever and better tempered too. That shows Murad had taken very good care of the horse. I thank God. Again this Uncle Kushrov was there. My Uncle Kushrov, who was in the parlor, became irritated and shouted, quiet man, quiet. your horse has been returned, pay no attention to it. So that ends also in humor, a funny note, but it is a very nice story, a very sweet story, where the horse and two young Armenian boys and the joyride they used to have, but they are noted for their honesty. So yes, they return the horse, and what a nice man John Byro is. Though his eyes, they are showing him that it is his horse, and yet he wouldn't accuse them of theft. Why? Because he knows the family very well. So he believes his heart, and he says a suspicious man would believe his eyes, but I can't. I know your family has a reputation for honesty, and probably it is this which made Murad return the horse the very next day. So it's a nice story. And there will be, you will be getting questions 30 to 40 words within that. That means the short ones. And then you'll have lengthy questions also to attempt 120 to 150 words. So yes, the NCERT questions, and then there are several question banks. We will go for the questions later. But today, yeah. So now goodbye and have a nice time. And please don't forget to press the like button and also to subscribe to my channel. Yes, now in the near future I'll be coming up with many more videos related to your chapters. Bye.